strike to end the fight. So this is all for self-defense. We don't do this in a street fight. This is not for a street beef. This is when your life is in danger. You have to defend yourself, defend your life, defend your dignity, the life of somebody that you're with. You're going to use your elbow to end the fight. And the idea is that you can create more force, more power. You can strike harder with your elbows. I'm going to show you some elbows that you're going to use to end the fight. You might not start the fight that way. Your hands are always going to be up and open. We're going to call this the threat. You might start with a palm strike. It might be a punch to the front hand or the back hand. You might throw a low kick to the shin, or you might throw a knee into the body, but you're going to end by driving your elbow in to the temple or into the jaw, or up, coming up under the jaw, or driving straight in to the face. You might be lifting it up and driving it down on top. Hello, Studer, it's good to see you. And you can do it with either elbow. Brandon, nice to see you. I haven't seen you for a long time. W9 UFO, good to see you. So we're talking about ending the fight as fast as humanly possible and using the principles of self-defense. Garrett says like an elbow punch, using the principles of self-defense and not just focusing on the technique. We are talking about elbows as a technique, but it's really more about the principle. And the principle is, what can you remove or destroy? Hello, Shake Skin, good to see you. And that comes from Tim Larkin's book, When Violence is the Answer. And I put the link below because you're asking me for that all the time. When violence is the answer, the concept is get yourself into a better position. Make sure your hands are up and open. This is called the reflexive block or the flinch block. Your hands are here. If you flinch in this position, you're less likely to get hit. If your hands are up above your chin, I like to have that knuckles about as high as the eyebrows. Hello, Matthew. So your hands are this high, your elbows are bent. You have this great strong position. If he tries to close the distance, he runs into your hand. If he tries to throw a punch, he's not gonna punch into your hands. So your hands are between your face and his face. And then you ask yourself the question, what can you remove or destroy? And in Tim Larkin's book, he says, take that deep breath to kind of calm down. That helps you just momentarily get a little bit of a clearer picture. Hello, Chris, good to see you. And the idea is, what can you remove or destroy? Can you remove his ability to see you, or his ability to breathe temporarily, smashing his nose, or permanently going through the throat? That's another elbow strike. Hello, Alita, Battle Angel, good to see you. So we're gonna end the fight by removing or destroying what his ability to see, breathe, his ability to be awake, maybe driving that elbow hard against his temple or into the jaw, or striking into the neck. Maybe he's taller than you and you can't reach up into his face yet until you knock him down a little bit. Maybe it's driving that elbow up into his body, more of a vertical striking with this hard part of your body, this hard part of your elbow into his solar plexus, knocking his wind out, maybe crushing that cartilage there, making it hard for him to stand up or breathe. That's removing or destroying his ability to press the fight into you. So if you focus on that question, what will you remove or destroy? The answer is going to pop into your head because it's going to be the closest. It'll make sense immediately when you ask yourself that question. And then the next is just, what technique are you going to use? Now, we said you can start the fight with palm strikes. And I like palm strikes because they're simple and easy for people to start with. It's better to protect your hand. If you look at your fist and the way your fist is made, a lot of people don't punch correctly. If you look at a boxer's punch, it's usually a nice square punch, but then there's a big glove. G. Carlton, good to see you. G. Carlton asked for close quarters Joe staff technique. We'll do that on the next video. I'll put that in this week. But if you had a boxing glove on your hand, then you're protected. And a lot of boxers are still breaking their hand when they're fighting in a long fight. Garrett says you can cut a skull open with your elbow. Absolutely. And Muay Thai especially, and other martial arts that are a little bit nastier, use the elbows. Their goal is to cut as much as they can. And I had my nose split from here to here with an elbow, and we were doing a demonstration. I moved. Luckily, I moved. If I hadn't moved, it probably would have slit me open here, or would have been a lot worse. I would have probably had to have surgery to correct it. I was lucky enough I got some of that skin glue, and you glue it together, and you can barely see it if you get it close, but you shouldn't be that close into my nose, right? But the point is, yes, your elbows will cut very, very quickly and very easily when you strike with those elbows. Now, when I talk about using your elbow to end the fight, I'm really talking about using this part, the tip of the elbow, and then the forearm, because you might be sticking your forearm coming into his throat. You might be bringing more of the forearm into the jaw, breaking his jaw, or into the elbow or the head. I want you to hit and follow through. And I don't want you to hit once and be done. For self-defense, you're gonna hit more than once. You might be coming up a couple times. I wanna show you this principle of starting with a palm strike. This is about distance. Palm strikes are long distance. Punches are long distance. Shorter punches, hook punches to the head and to the body, and uppercuts are shorter punches. But when you get this close, I want you to think in terms of self-defense and switching to an elbow strike. And again, using that elbow to come into a target you can remove or destroy for self-defense. Thinking about his ability to be awake, you can hit him here, hard enough, knock his operating system out. And you're this close. Once you're this close, you can throw some knees in there and go back into an elbow. One of my favorite elbows is one of the hardest ones that you can hit somebody with. You're putting your hand up here, almost like you're answering your phone. I like to say putting your helmet on, because when you put the hand here against your head in this elbow strike, if he hits you, this acts as a big shock absorber, and you're not gonna get the same kind of damage as if your hand was out here, away from your head. So always bringing your hand in when you come in for this first elbow. I like to, if he's too close to me, or he's got a weapon, especially if he's got a blade, and I made the mistake of letting him get too close, and I don't have any other option, I'm not gonna go for that blade and try to control the hand. The first thing I'm gonna do is put my helmet on and stick the end of your elbow into the face. And the goal is to end that fight as fast as humanly possible by destroying or removing his ability to be awake, right? His ability to see you, smashing here into his eyes or into his nose, blood comes out, all the mucus is coming out, his eyes are watering, he's got to choke on his own spit and his blood, he can't catch his breath, you can get out of there much faster. Or even better, you come in and you hit him with this elbow and you bring that other one in 5 or 6 times, and then hopefully he's unconscious. He's on the floor. The cops can come and scoop him up because he's a bad guy. He's a piece of garbage. They can take him wherever they need to take him, and you get to go home safe. It's your human right to defend yourself. So we're going to end the fight with the elbow for self-defense. Starting with a punch. You might want to throw a couple punches. If you know how to punch and you can deliver a really good punch, you can knock somebody out hitting them in the chin. But if you don't and they keep coming in and you realize maybe there's 2 or 3 of them, there's a bunch of thugs teaming up on you, you don't have time to get into a boxing match with somebody. You certainly don't have time to get into a grappling match and take him onto the ground for some Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And because his buddies he's got 2 or 3 other guys there, they're just kicking your head and stomping your head into the ground while you're trying to wrestle the one guy and get him in a key lock or a kimura or an arm bar or something, or you're trying to choke one guy out. If we're talking about real self-defense, multiple attackers, you need to end the fight as fast as humanly possible. So bigger opponent, somebody with a weapon, multiple attackers, we want to end the fight with elbow, fast as we possibly can for self-defense. Opening with palm strikes, closing and ending the fight with elbows. So the basic elbows that I want you to practice, the first one is always going to be this horizontal elbow. And the way I want you to practice that is just turn your hand like this so that your thumb, that thumb knuckle, because you're going to have your palm facing the ground. And I like to have my hand closed. And from here, you can see there, it's touching. You're going to touch yourself with that. And that's going to allow you to turn using your shoulders and your hips, your core muscles, to generate maximum amount of force by turning your shoulders and hips. So you're not just hitting with your shoulder muscle, you're hitting with that big stomach muscle, the back muscle, the chest muscle, and bringing that into the face. Now, you see I always put my hand here, that if you were to grab somebody, you could hold them there as you strike them like that. And I saw Jack Reacher, I've never even seen the movie or the TV show. I just saw a real quick clip somewhere, and that was a technique that he did. But what I liked about and I know it's a TV show, I'm not big into using those examples normally, but what I thought it taught well was that he didn't just strike once, he did 3, 4, 5 strikes to end the fight fast. And that's what I want you to remember. Don't just settle with one strike, whether it's the same one over and over, and keep it simple. Whatever works, works. Don't do something fancy when you can finish them off fast for self-defense with a hard elbow strike. So practice your elbow strikes. And if you have a bag to practice on the bag. If you don't have a bag, you don't have a partner, just strike into your own hand. Just putting your hand in the center line of your body and making sure that you're following through and you're not throwing your elbows like this. If I were to hit the bag, I'm not really doing anything. Or even worse, sliding your elbow by. That's the biggest mistake I see you make in person, is that you don't follow through and you're moving in two directions when you do this horizontal strike. The first direction is you're turning your shoulders and hips, so you're moving, rotating around your spine. So you're just turning this way, right? Like a big slap to the face or a nice hook punch. But the second way is actually coming in. So you're not just turning, but you have to come forward. So when you practice, move yourself in by taking a small step. And I think you can see back here in the mirror maybe a little bit better, but your front foot is just moving forward a little bit. So as you throw that elbow, whether it's the backhand or you can throw the elbow in the front arm, you're moving in to close that distance. So when you have three things, you have that extension of your arm, in this case the elbow from the shoulder, you're extending all the way out. Turning your shoulders and hips. Yeah, Delita says I teach these in all the lessons. It's always the same. The basic building blocks of self-defense are always the same. Extension, rotation through the shoulders and hips. And then finally, acceleration by taking that little front foot and moving forward, closing the distance and driving that elbow into his body. Especially if your target is here. If you did, and Garrett says it's for close range, rather than punching, use your elbow. That's absolutely true. Barry Wong, better than breaking your hand. Amen. We started talking about that. You might have, I've punched a lot of things for a long, long time. And you can see I have one knuckle here that's much bigger than I don't know if you can see it very much. It's a little bit more, it's all scar tissue and broken bones in there. You can feel it if you push it around. Because I punched things and I broke that knuckle. And then I was stupid and then I did it again and broke that knuckle. So you can damage your hands very easily. And thankfully that was just a little bit, right? But palm strikes are better than fists for that self-defense purpose. Elbows can't be beat because they hit so hard. So the first, this horizontal elbow. The second one is a vertical elbow, and that's just coming up. And like I said, put your hand on your head. And I don't know what it is. When I work with you in person, you have a hard time sticking it on your head. Maybe you don't like the feel of your own head or your own hair or whatever, or in some of them, like my case, the lack of it. But putting your hand here gets you into the habit of not only keeping it in the center line. I want to strike always through the center line when I'm hitting somebody for self-defense, but it also acts as that shock absorber. He might be throwing punches at you and you can intercept by turning into it and let his fist run into your elbow. And then from here, throw that second elbow horizontally into his jaw, breaking it off of his face for self-defense, or into his, the temple, maybe hit him some of the side of the head or in the side of the neck. You hit that process of nerves. The blood flushes out of his brain, he falls to the ground. Again, cops come scoop him up, it's self-defense. You have the right to defend yourself. But leading with that elbow, either intercepting a punch or sticking it in his face so that you can bring this other one around and break his jaw for self-defense. Those are two ways you work those combinations together. The third kind of elbow after coming straight up is going to be coming at an angle. And you can bring the angle this way, coming up and across the body. Think about, again, into his jaw, into his ribs. Maybe you're seated and he's coming down on top of you. You can intercept and come through his hands with that elbow. Just, his hands are here. Your elbow comes here through the middle, breaking his jaw. So practice this coming up and across the body. And again, notice how tightly you're keeping your hands to your body so you get better extension and better rotation. And then you're going to be able to knock somebody out with those elbows in the fight with your elbow for self-defense. The next one is to think about taking this thumb, making it the pivot point on the top of your chest here so that your chicken wing pops up. And then you're gonna bring it down and across, and think about coming down and into the side of his face, or again, maybe he's reaching in, he's grabbed you. You can, if his hands are on your neck, just lifting this here is gonna open his hand and start to pop that off, and then you drive that into the side of his jaw. He's gonna let go for self-defense. But you have to practice. Again, if you have a bag, hit a bag. If you don't have a bag, just practice in the air. After you practice for a while, use your other hand. It's gonna toughen your hands up too, so that when you stick that in his face, he's gonna feel that. Yeah, Garrett says elbow boxing, amen. So we have vertical, horizontal, vertical, and then we have diagonal up and diagonal down. One of my favorite elbows is to come straight up, especially if he's getting in close. You can bring your hand up by turning your shoulders and then open that distance and then smash that down right into his clavicle. Or think about taking this hard bony elbow and raking it down across his face, smashing, maybe pull his nose off of his face a little bit for self-defense. You'll see in there and see in his skull. See, he has no soul, right? Bring your hand up and smashing for self-defense. Smashing this elbow, just raking it. And if you think about how sensitive your face is, you take your elbow and stick it in his face for self-defense. And now it doesn't take a lot of force or pressure to stick that elbow into his face and just rip it down. And this is the same muscle you use for pull-ups. That's why I want you to be doing pull-ups. But if you can't do pull-ups yet, just practice pulling yourself up out of a chair, right? It's the same muscle. You can get the back muscle super strong, and then when you need to, you can stick that in his face. So we have him coming across here. Hello, Nicholas, good to see you. Coming across here, coming up here, coming up at the angle, down at the angle, shoot it up and rake it down his face. And then more, and I said this is one of my favorites, but my most favorite of all the elbow strikes is that spinning or reversing elbow. Taking this elbow and just sticking it into the side of his head. Again, we talked about Tim Larkin's book, When Violence is the Answer. The link is below. It's the best book that's ever been written up to this point, in my opinion, on practical, effective self-defense. And it's about principles. It's not about techniques. He talks about techniques. You can learn techniques, but you're born with techniques. This is the whole point. You already know how to fight. You just need to learn how to frame it in a way that you can understand it. And that book is going to do that from you. Hello, Ralph. Ralph is a New York City prepper. Ralph, great to have you here. Hello, Heather. Good to see you. Yeah, Heather says she has to get that book. Heather, that's one of the best books, and especially for women, for people who don't feel like they're as strong as some of the thugs that are out there hurting people right now. That's the book to read, because it flips the whole script and it changes the way you think about self-defense and what's really effective and what's not. So I don't teach all of the super fancy stuff. I used to teach all the Hapkido or joint locks, twists, throws, all the throws that I grew up with, all those, and they all work when you have a great partner. And I love Aikido. Aikido is one of my favorite martial arts to practice with a partner who knows how to be a good partner, so that I can do my technique and they do their technique. And it's like dancing. There's a book, one of my favorite books in martial arts is it's a lot like dancing. New York City prepper, thank you for becoming a virtual student. But just like I wouldn't hit somebody with ballet, right? Although ballet will make you strong enough and give you a wicked strong body so that you could hit somebody hard. Ballet, Tai Chi, right? I wouldn't hit somebody with the Tai Chi, although I know some people would disagree with me. But Tai Chi is good and it has its value and it can help you with self-defense. But when it comes to self-defense, we want to practice the principles of self-defense, which is the whole point of the book, Tim Larkin's book, which, like I said, the link's below if you want to read it. If you don't read it, I think you're missing out. I think if you're serious about self-defense, if you're a serious prepper and you're paying attention to the world today and what's going around, what's happening, then you need to get that book at least. You read that book about self-defense, there's not much else that you have to learn. It's that good, in my opinion. All right, and just like the rest of us in martial arts, in self-defense, Tim Larkin is the descendant of great people. He learned from a lot of good people. He's created some of his own ideas and put that in there, but it's been around forever. But the practical approach to self-defense has not been around that long. It's been around, it hasn't been that popular. It's still not popular. People would rather do the movie stuff and learn the movie stuff than do the things that are gonna actually keep you safe. And the things that are gonna keep you safe is smashing them in the face with an elbow for self-defense, if that's what the answer to the question, what can you remove or destroy? All right, so the last elbow that I wanted you to see, my favorite elbow, is this reverse elbow. And your back muscles are so big and so strong, your butt muscles, your leg muscles. So when you step back, and notice I said step, I want you to practice stepping back. And if he's really close to you, take a small step. But just that little step with that turn of your shoulders and hips, driving that elbow, and notice that you have your elbow above your shoulder. If your elbow's below your shoulder, especially if he's choking you on your neck and you're just about to die, and you pop your elbow higher than his hand and you just turn into him, his hand's coming off. I don't care how much stronger he is than you. You could be almost dead. You bring your elbow higher than his hand and you turn, make sure you look at him as you're turning, and his hand's coming off. Now, if you can get that elbow into his jaw, into his temple, he's going down almost every single time. So you lift and you drive that into his face. If he's too far back, just extend and hit with that hard, tight fist. Make sure you squeeze it as hard as you can so that as you're turning, you're striking, and you can hit him here, but you're gonna end the fight with that elbow. You're gonna finish turning into him. And again, this elbow, this horizontal elbow, goes in two directions. It turns through your shoulders and hips, and it drives into his face for self-defense. So practice turning to one side, practice turning back to the other side. You can also drive this down and into his stomach, and then extend that fist into his groin, smash, grab, pull. That's for all you old Marines. Smash, grab, pull. You'll remember that. Hit him there, grab. That stuff works too. It doesn't seem like it would, but trust me, it does. Smash him with your fist in the groin, grab it, and rip it off. Literally, for self-defense. Anyway, you guys have been awesome. Again, thank you for joining as a new member. I'll see you guys in a little bit. We're gonna do that close